I think it's starting to come in to fall into place pretty good. This time a week ago I was taking nitro, about a half a bottle an hour, but it looks a lot better now. Whenever I am privileged to introduce a speaker, I'm always reminded of a story that I heard a speaker tell on himself once. He was speaking at a conference in Maryland, I believe it was, and the chairman for that particular meeting didn't know the speaker and had not met him until about 10 minutes before the meeting. So the chairman is going through his chores and reading his announcements and getting all the housework done, and he finished that and he glanced down at a card that he had, and he says, "It says here that our speaker needs no introduction, and it's a damn good thing because I never heard of it." I don't think that's the case with our speaker this evening. Several months ago when I called Jim to invite him to be with us during our conference, he said, "Oh yeah, Kentucky, people got some whiskey up there, haven't you?" And I told him that it had been rumored about that some did go through here on a truck a few years ago. And that seemed to satisfy him, and he thought that at least some of us here would qualify. But if he had any doubt, when he read our banner here, that removed it all. Would you please welcome Jim W. from Fort Worth, Texas.
I like things with nines in them anyway. Probably going to be all right now. I really shouldn't be here, because I'm really not an alcoholic. I'm a Southern Baptist. But I am Jim Williams, now I'm an alcoholic. But damn it, I'm just not supposed to be one. You know, Southern Baptists, there ain't no way they can drink. They can't even commit adultery, you know. Which is probably the reason we drank. I didn't mind giving up cards and dancing. It was those other two that bothered me. That was our 4 commandments, and I was raised on those 4 commandments. I was raised in a little town where the whole county was dry. That means no booze is sold at all. And they got a bunch of those in Texas. That's when you have to drive so far. And there's one guy in town who drank, and he was a bad character. His name was Old Bratch. He drank wine and bay rum and slept downtown. I never did drink bay rum and always tried to get out of town before I went to sleep. Because I didn't want to be bad like Old Bratch. Well, I kept going to church every day. Every Sunday with God I was there, and every Wednesday night, pound the preacher, did everything. Went to BYPU, I don't know what to call it now. What do they call it? Something new, I guess. Same thing, anyway, whatever it is. Can't hear. You're the lucky one. That's just the way we are. God's got them taken care of and they can't stand it. We're just that way. Get a free ride and got a good deal, won't get screwed up or nothing, and by God, they can't stand it. Finally got to be about 13, being a Southern Baptist. And you know how they are, they'll sing that song for that one right back there. Hell, they'll point at you, you know. Your throat hurts. God, you know you're one of those. You're not one of them. And I guarantee you, when they talk about those out there, it's a different show. And I knew I was one of those. They could look at you in the eye and tell what you're thinking. I got around this girl and got those funny feelings. And I told them about it. They said, you know, we've been meaning to talk to you. I knew they had. You know we've been praying for you. I knew it. Hell, I just knew I was on the road. Then they told me to meet them before the service, and I met them, and you know what they do? They get you in that little room. It's not like AA, you know. AA said, well, I saw old Don laying in the ditch last night. He lives, we'll get him. They kind of hone in on you. They just pick a bad one out and they get him, you know, and they start praying for him and talk about how bad he is and how bad he needs to get in there. Well, I want everybody to like me. So when they sang that last stanza for that one right back there, I came down the aisle, scared, kind of like AA, except don't give out any chips. Once you get down there, well, they pray, and then you sign up. And they come and hug you and kiss you and tell you how great you are, put you in the tank, the handkerchief leaks, you choke a little, but hell, you come out okay. Went to school the next day and saw that girl, came right back. I went back and told him, I said, I guess we'll have to do it again. Didn't take. They said, no, you just don't do it. Well, they didn't know, I didn't know how to don't do anything. I didn't know how to don't do anything. I didn't know you could say, Dave, don't do that anymore, and hell, they just didn't do it anymore. And I said, how do you don't do it? Don't think about it. I said, I wonder why in the hell I didn't think about that. And I thought, well, I've been thinking about it all day today. I'll just go ahead and think about it the rest of the day, and tomorrow when I get up, I won't think about it ever again. Got up the next day and thought about it more than I ever thought about it before in my life. I had no idea that I was the kind of guy that every time I started not to do something, I was going to do it more than I ever did before. Started not to think about something, going to think about it all the time. I don't know where I learned that. Hell, ain't been anywhere but church or school. Small town, dry. They don't let you go anywhere else. Finally got out of high school, had a hell of a time getting out of high school. I was busy, just busy. And a lot of the things I did didn't have anything to do with school, and I think that's what tied me up. And I thought a lot. Had a lot on my mind. Or I had the same thing on my mind a lot. 30 miles away was a town that was wild and wicked. As soon as I got out of high school, I told this guy one Saturday that's where you could do things during the week. We was going to go over there and see what this honky-tonk business was. And we drove over there and opened the door of that beer joint, and there was that deacon with a warm girl in one hand and a cold beer in the other. Happier than I'd ever seen him. And I liked the girl much better that he was with that night than the one he used on Sunday morning. I said, my God, let's get out of here. He'll tell Jesus on us, and we didn't even get to do it. This guy said, he can't tell anybody. And I thought, hell, he's got a better shot with Jesus than I do. We drank 2 beers, and that was all. Didn't do me any good. I was tickled death to get out of there. Didn't taste good, feel good, or nothing. I was glad to get out of there. He didn't even pay attention to me. Next morning, I got up and wanted to go to church for the first time, and I could remember. I said, maybe you get old enough, you don't have to go. Maybe he hadn't been going. I just didn't see him. There he was, sad like he always was, with that other woman. Now I know he wasn't sad. Hell, he was tired. Then I had my first spiritual awakening. Maybe you can do it a little bit and just don't tell anybody. So I told him, I said, next Saturday we're going back, Don't Tell a Soul. The big town had 2 joints, we're going to the other joint. Walked in that honky-tonk, there wasn't a soul in there I knew. There was a deacon. Wasn't a one of them in there, and I learned how to do everything but commit adultery. And I'd have done that, except you know how we are. Think about it all day long, get too busy that night. Then if we do, we don't know whether we did or not. And you can't call back and say, did we do anything last night? Might have, and everything is fine. You don't know, you know. I learned how to drink. I didn't know I knew how to drink. Hey, you just drink one after the other. Get the feeling so good you can't feel it all. And I learned how to dance, fall down the dance floor and break my nose. Did it 4 or 5 times after I learned how. Learned how to black out, go home, wake up the next morning, throw up just like I was supposed to. This guy called and said, how you feel? I said, my God, I feel horrible. He said, oh, but you had a great time. I said, oh, wow. Then I knew I'd have a good time. So go out, get drunk, black out, wake up the next morning, throw up, then you knew you had a good time. Did not know you drank it any other way. I drank it one way only, to feel whatever that is you feel, that you want to feel all the time. And I never felt good enough. Just when the time I was about to feel good enough, I quit feeling. Then you'd have to go and do it again next night. Well, I kept doing that. And they had a war and I went. I don't know why they had it. They don't either. I just went. And things were happening in my life. My folks would say, Jimmy would never want to do that. Yeah, I did too. Already done some of it. They'd say, Jimmy wants to do that. No, I didn't either. Anything anybody wanted me to do, I'd say, why do they think I want to do that? I don't want to do that. Anything that I wanted to do, they'd say, Jimmy does not want to do that. Hell, I didn't fit anywhere. I tried to fit everywhere. People would go places. I didn't want to go, but I'd go. Maybe they'd like me better. Never did. Never liked me enough. Went to that service, and that's the most ridiculous thing I ever got to do in my life. They get up at 5:30 in the morning. Nothing's going on at 5:30 in the morning. They don't even have anything to do at 5:30 in the morning. Then when things are supposed to start, hell, they go to bed. Went to China. Hell, I'd seen everything you want to see in 3 weeks. They stayed 2 years. We were ready to catch a train to go catch that boat to go to China. They got us up at 3:15 in the morning. We caught that train at 10, and it was only a mile and a half to catch it. Got out of there as quick as they'd let me. Then I had to go to school. I said, my folks said, well, you're going to school, aren't you? And I said, no. God, I like to never got out of school. And they said, why, everybody's going to school. You want to go to school, don't you? No, I don't want to go to school. I went to school. But I showed them. They said you had to get that piece of paper. I'll guarantee you that's all I got. You know what I like about you and me? We'll totally, absolutely, completely destroy ourselves just to be right. A lot of folks won't do that. There's a lot of folks that just haven't guts to hang in there. They surrender too quick. I like it that we surrendered right before death, but not a second earlier. Not any point in us coming here early. After I got out of school, I was having some minor difficulties with women. If you put 10 pretty girls up there, I'll get the sick one every time. I don't know where I learned that. A lot of guys, I see them just go with any girl. Well, a Southern Baptist can't just go with any girl. First place, you've got to be in love. I found out later on I was in love, and it was awkward when you didn't have a girl. I love my romances. They were fantastic when you'd finally find that good sick girl. I was reading a Love AA when that girl just comes in, you know, and you get her in your group to ice cream, and she turns over to you and says, you know, I'm just not comfortable talking to a woman, but I feel good talking to you. And I'll say, I'll help you, baby. After I'd finally find this girl, we'd be so totally in love in 2 months that I'd almost have to quit work. Then it would just deteriorate from there on out. Of course, after I got out of school, I had to go to work, which is a ridiculous thing for us to do. They just got our system wrong. Our Social Security should have started right after high school. Then we could have started to work at 65. Maturity and everything had set in, and we'd have been just fine. But they tried to get us, they got us reversed. Every place I worked, they always wanted me to come work on Mondays. They just had a bad deal about Mondays. I don't know what it was. You could have the flu on Thursday, they wouldn't say too much, but Mondays, they wanted you there on Mondays, every place I worked. I've got a little thing on my desk, got a tongue sticks out of it, says Monday. I'd run every Sunday afternoon thinking about tomorrow's going to be Monday. And where I worked, they never did treat me like they should have. They did not pay me like they were supposed to. Even when I got in the right position, they still didn't run it right. And I'd explain it to them that they weren't doing it right. They insisted upon doing it right just because they owned it. Took me a long time to figure out I was always the one that was leaving. Some of those places are still operating doing it wrong. Finally got out of a job, couldn't get one. Now the way I look for a job, I get up every morning and throw up and spray. I go fill out one of those long forms that says, list the jobs you've had the last 10 years. Well, you've got to figure out which jobs are best to list. Where have you lived? You've got to figure that out. Which would they like for you? Where would they like for you to live? You had to figure all that out. That's a half a day's work, you know. Then go through the interview, you're not going to get it anyway. Then go out and get drunk. Now, I did that one day at a time. I saved this one place that I knew a guy, and I knew they needed somebody, and I knew they were looking for somebody, and after about 10 days, I went to see him. There was something about me you could just tell. He wanted to tell me, but he didn't know how to tell me. There was also something that I knew they were going to feel more comfortable when I was gone. But evidently, I could just feel that I was in the wrong spot, that he really was going to tell me something, and I was afraid he's going to tell me what I thought he was going to tell me. But he never did tell me. He just told me, you don't want this job. Yeah, I want the job. No, you don't want this job. Damn it, I want the job. No, you don't want it. Well, I didn't get it. So I went out and got drunk, waked up the next morning. I said, hell, I've been doing this for almost 2 weeks. I think I'll take the day off. So I went out to the golf course, ate an old egg, an old piece of toast, and went around to the beer jar where my only friend left was. Only man that understood me. And I went out there and he said, my God, you look horrible this morning. I said, yeah, I think I'm coming down with something. He said, the way you look, I think you need a beer. And I said, oh my God, it's only 9:15. You know I'm Baptist. I never drink before noon, which is 10:30. He said, the way you look, I don't think it makes any difference. So I drank half that beer and sprayed the golf course with it. I don't mind spraying if I don't lose my concentration. Then you get it in your nose and it burns, you know. We know how not to do that. It's just that we quit thinking. Mind wanders, you know. Now I knew how to meditate before I got here. I don't ever do it that close anymore. It's when it's you, God, and the commode. And it's stringy. You don't know where the end is. Hell, you can't breathe. You don't know where you're standing or going. You ought to use that commode stuff for the energy crisis or whatever it is, because even in the hot summertime, you don't have to get to that deep meditation. It's kind of tiring, and you lean over there, and that's just as cool. I told this guy, I said, maybe I ought to go home. I might really be sick. So I went home. I thought, I better go home and lie down. I didn't get to use these vibrators in these motels for 2 years out there sober, because I just vibrate all on my own, you know. I went home, got in the living room. I love to have a meeting with me. God, it's fantastic to have a meeting with me. I call on hospitals. I start to drive to that old hospital. I said, God, you can't park around there in that big old hospital. You got to take care of that kit, and it's heavy, all the way downstairs to the basement. And that pursing agent, you know hell, he ain't going to buy anything anyway. You don't even have to stop. Just drive right on by. That's the reason I like to run around with me. I like to run around with me an alcoholic. I can live a whole week and a half a day. Then you got the rest of the week off. So I went home and I had a meeting and I decided that I'm going to commit suicide. And those guys will worry about it for the rest of their days because they didn't hire me. They'll never be able to get over it. But I didn't know how to do it. Hell, now it's a cinch. On TV, every once in a while you see that thing, suicide, call that number. Everything, miniskirts, everything came out after I sobered up. Don't need it now. Well, I knew I didn't want to use a gun. I don't like noise in the morning. Besides that, it splatters all over everything. Razor blades were popular then. And I thought, boy, they'll see that in there. Jimmy Williams cuts his wrist with razor blades, and they'll worry about it the rest of their life. But I didn't know how to do it. I knew you couldn't do it in the living room. Get blood all over the carpet. I'm always thinking of others. So I went in the bathroom where I did a lot of things anyway. Got my razor blade and sat on and got both wrists just a little bit. I had sense enough to know if you just cut one, left side died, the right side be alive. You and I don't want to be half anything, you know. And I'm just sitting there listening to the drip and thinking about those guys going to worry about it for the rest of their days. And the phone rang. I thought, what if where I'm going I'll always wonder who that was calling? That'd be enough to run you crazy. So I put a Band-Aid on my wrist right quick. Well, I didn't know how to do it. One night, Eloise, I was over at the club, and some gal called, said my husband's committed suicide. He's laying in the bathtub, cut his wrist, went over there, he cut a big old gash all the way down there. He didn't die either. So I died just as good as he died. I answered the phone as the police. And they're kind of like ministers. Come go along with me. Except they all need this program, they all have personality change. As soon as you tell them they're not going, by God, they start to get all upset. Then you tell them, hell, I'm not going, I've got to go home. Then they really do go crazy, and you have to pacify them and go along with them. Well, he said, where were you last night? I said, I was right here. He said, no, you wasn't. I said, how do you know? We was there. Then I didn't want to talk to him anymore. I'd already learned don't ever talk to anybody knows more about where you've been than you do. I said, what do you want me to do? He said, well, you can either come down here or we'll come out there and get you. I said, I'll be right there. Put that phone down. It's only 11 o'clock. I've had a hell of a day, you know. Had 2 minor meetings, got to go into another major, and I've already had 1 major. And I said, I don't think I like either one of those decisions. I think I'll just leave town. Wasn't doing anything anyway. It had $36, which is all you need for a new career as for inflation. So I mailed the key to the folks and got in the car and took off. Waked up the next morning with $7. And I said, wonder how my folks are getting along. It's amazing how you think of them all of a sudden. So I called them and they said, come by here. I went by there. I never shortchanged my folks. They ain't gonna get their money back. But I always gave them my very finest story. In fact, it's so horrible that I get to listen to it, and you know it's true. Hell, I cry with them. Old John said, well, Jimmy's honest, let him have 100. God, with 107 you can darn near go into business. Next morning I got up and I got ready to leave, and I said, now there's one thing I left out last night. With all that trouble I had down there, I've been drinking some. And I'll never drink again anymore. I decided I'll never drink again. You'll never have to worry about me again. And my folks just looked blank. After I sobered up, I went back and asked my aunt, I said, you remember that time? She said, which one? She finally said, well, I think I know which one you're talking about. You were 33. And I turned around to John and said, what do you think? John said, he's 33. He'll never make it till he's 35. Said, we thought we had never, every time you'd leave, we'd never see you again. I decided then I'd go down the Rio Grande Valley of Texas. That's the end of the United States. They've got a creek down there, and they just changed countries. And I went down there, and it's a good place to go to look for a job because they'll hire nearly anybody. Because nobody goes through down there. Well, I got a job down there. It took me 3 weeks. Lived in an old hotel downtown where it was familiar. Kept all my clothes, had an old lampshade in the car. I'd go down and get shorts and socks and shirt and go back up. Never took them up there because I wasn't going to be there, but one day at a time, you know. I got the job, and when I get a job, I could usually just get drunk. Not get drunk, and I'd work 7 days a week till I could get up there to my place. Then I'd level off. And I did that there. I'm still trying to get married. I've got 2 I'm trying to go with. Not doing well with either one. You know, you call about 4 or 4:30 and say, I'll see you about 7 o'clock. Fine. Maybe 3 or 4 days before you get by there. But I finally found me one that was a little different than those other ones. God, she and I had a couple of physical discussions. I never had those before. She really took advantage of me when my equilibrium was off. I was over at her house one night, and it was about 10:30, 11, evidently being honest like I am, I indicated I might go see the other girl for a moment, which I guess didn't go over too well. But I wanted to go to the bathroom first. I walked to the bathroom, and evidently she wanted to discuss something before I went to the bathroom, so she followed me in there, which is a bad place to have a meeting. And we evidently had a meeting there. The next morning, I'm laying there asleep in my beautiful faded green trailer in an alley behind a motel with the good old yard as my front yard. With just a few weeds, they die, you know. I didn't have time to do yard work anyway. And something said, wham, on that door. My God, I'd already learned to wake up in total fright in my own bed by myself. And I jumped out of bed and looked down, still had my clothes on. I said, oh my God, I bet I was going somewhere early this morning. Opened that door, and there stood that 6'4", 250-pound Baptist preacher saying, come go along with me. I looked down, saw a little blood on my shirt, and I said, oh my God, preacher, my head is killing me, and it's throbbing like I'd been in a car wreck. I looked out there, and there was my car, it looked okay. And I said, God, preacher, something's wrong with me. He said, that's right. Come and get in the car. I said, man, I can't go. I just can't do it, I can't do it, I'm nervous, can't do it. He said, come and go with me. I got in that car, and man, total fright's got me, and I feel like something's wrong. We drove up in front of her house, and I assumed she was involved. Opened the door, and sure enough, she didn't look too good. She did look like she might have fallen in a bush or something, you know. And my head kept throbbing, and I said, well, I've got to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom, and she won. I really think I probably lost my equilibrium, fell in that bathtub, and she stepped on me. Because I've looked better than that in car wrecks. 2 weeks later, we got married. Got married in the First Baptist Church, so it worked. 10 o'clock in the morning, no drinking before the funeral ceremony. I wasn't going to invite anybody, so I told them not to invite anybody. At about 11 o'clock, I finally got drunk enough to start inviting them, and I quit at 3. And the beer distributor, my best friend, said, I want to tell you something. You called me at 2:45 this morning. I know you don't know it, but you did. And said, we didn't come down here to see you get married. We came down here because we didn't believe it. Y'all's friends don't even like each other. The longest bet on your marriage is 3 weeks. But I showed them. I hung in there for 8 years. But my life changed. I had no idea how nice it was to get up and throw up in peace. I was always going to quit smoking because it made me gag every morning. So I'd grab those cigarettes and grab that coffee and go in that bathroom, lock that door, and she'd tell me what I was through that door. I'd have to get upset, go make the living, go out and get drunk, come home, tell her what she was. We did that one day at a time. I really think that we developed such a deep hate for one another that we were safe, because the one that died first won. Lost that job, couldn't get one. 2 months, couldn't find one. Finally, a drunk like me was manager of a drug company, and he hired me. It took him about 2 months to get rid of me, and if you have never been to West Texas, drive through there sometime. Don't stop, just drive through. They sent me to a little town out there, had 536 people, and there was 36 of them making a living. I joined the 500. I'm standing at a drugstore trying to write, and I can't write. Hell, you can't write, vibrate. The pharmacist says, you look like you're going to fly apart. I said, any minute. He said, well, take some of these. This was before Valium. Understand Valium? God, it's crossed both eyes and walked straight with Valium. This was just Librium. And I took a couple of those little tins and nothing happened. I waited 15, 20 seconds. And I took 3 more, then my knees just go boop. I said, God, I know how to weave, now I've got to learn a new stance. So I remember in the daytime, drank beer at night. I only had one decision to make at night. After the third beer, and I never tried to make it till I had 3 beers, am I going home early or am I going to close the joint? And then if I was going home early, I'd switch to bourbon. And then if I was going to stay all night, I'd just stay on beer. I went home one way only, which is the only way to go home. If you're going to go home the right way, blacked out. Finally got interviewed for a job. A guy recommended me for a job from a company out of Huntington, Indiana. Never heard of them in my life. They had me on an airplane, flew me up there, and they looked at that thing and said, "My God, we don't know why you're here." I didn't either. Hell, I didn't know what they did. I kept looking around trying to figure out what they did. I wouldn't ask, you know. God, 10:30 passed, 11 o'clock passed, noon passed. And they just looked at me. And finally this guy said, "We don't know what to do with you." Well, my God, I couldn't help them. I don't know what the hell they want me to do. Finally, this guy says, "We're afraid you can't do it." I said, "Oh, hell, I can do it. Don't worry about it." God, it was 2:30 in the afternoon. I was in bad shape. At 2:30, you can agree to anything. And he said, "Well, if you think you can do it, I'm vice president, head of sales. I'll just hire you." And I said, "Well, I can do it. Jello, don't worry about it." God, I had to get out of that joint. You know, just been up there 5 hours. My God. God, I got to the airport and they finally left me, and I ran in there and got 2 doubles right quick and tried to get my sense back together. Then I end up back in Houston, and of course I don't know what they do. And the guy from Dallas is supposed to come down there and show me, and he didn't come. I waited a week, nothing happened. So I called them, and I didn't want to tell them I didn't know what I was doing. So they said, "What have you been doing?" I said, "Nothing." They said, "Well, you need to come back up here." I said, "Okay." So I went back up there. Then they began to talk to me and show me some stuff that they sold. Then I began to catch on. There's an outfit where you're supposed to sell things from. I went back and I set up, got a 2-holer. You know, what's the name, set up battle. We just couldn't handle it in the same bedroom anymore. Just too dangerous. And I lasted about 9 months. My customers never saw me drunk. I would drink with them, but I'd always leave and go to my place, black out, go home. I always had my place and then a spare place. In case you lose your place, and you get the other place. The day before Christmas Eve of 1965, I played golf with these customers, and they had a couple of their in-laws in there, or outlaws, or whatever they were. And I started drinking a little early, and I blacked out over at their house, drove from one side of Houston to the other, blacked out. That's nothing new for me. I'm a good blackout driver. Did it a lot. The next morning I get up, I'm still not an alcoholic. The only alcoholic I know is that one guy that slept down behind the grocery store. Drank that wine and bay rum, and I never changed my mind about an alcoholic. And I went out, got up the next morning, waked up in total fright. Hell, I'm in my bed. That's what scared me to death. Looked out there, and my car's back, and it's parked funny, but it's there. I don't know who drive it, and I'm giving that up. And walk around it, no new blood or new dents. And I come back in, or what's her name went next door, they was going to have a party. And I looked up in the phone book and called in a group under Alcoholics Anonymous. Must have heard it on the telephone. Must have heard it on the radio. Only way I could have known the name in a group. That's the reason I always like places where they got an intergroup, because it saved my life. I picked up that phone and called that, and this little girl, hell, it's Christmas Eve, and she acted like she was glad I called. I should have known then there's something wrong with the outfit. She said, somebody will be right out. Well, I waited an hour. Nobody came. 10:15, my God, it's almost 10:30, look a nice box, got 3 beers. Well, I don't need him, and I forgot who it was I called. And about that time the phone rang, he said, I'll be right there. Hell, I could tell him I didn't need him, he hung up. Well, I look out the window and I said, I'll just get rid of him. Here comes a deacon-looking guy, not smiling, sharp-pointed nose, short, with a book under his arm. I said, oh my God. We're going to read that book and pray. I've not only been baptized, I've been rededicated 10 times. I'll just get rid of it. He came in there, we didn't read that book and we didn't pray. I don't know what he said. About that time, old what's-her-name came back and he said, you want to go with me? I didn't, but it's better than staying with her. Got in the car, knew I'd made a mistake. He hit that old loop in Houston. I knew it. He's going 55, 60 miles an hour. And I said, my God, I've gone off with a perfect stranger. I know better than that. He's not my kind of guy. Total fright sets in. I said, I'll buy a beer. I don't want a beer. I said, you have to let me out. You just have to let me out because I've got to have a beer, got to have it right now. Stop that you told him over there, or let me out and I'll walk over there. I said, but besides that, it's 11 o'clock. He said, can you wait till we get to the club? Oh, yeah, I can do that. All I ask is a little light down at the end of the tunnel. I can handle a fight, but I've got to have the light. And we drove and got over in kind of a bad neighborhood. Drove up to this old house. 2 or 3 of those cars looked pretty good, and the rest of them looked about like mine. I said, this it? He said, yeah. I thought, well, when I get some money, I'll help these folks. Opened the door, and there's some of the deacons sitting over there talking about women in the stock market, and I found out later on didn't know anything about either one. They had an old bar back there in the back, had an old piece of linoleum on it. Hell, I think it's old when they put it on. It had holes in it. And the bartender, this is a program of attraction, you know. The bartender looked a hell of a lot better than I did. And this little short thing says, mix him up a little milk and honey. I said, my God, what do you put in it? I never drank anything like that in my life. He said, well, you see, you're nervous. I said, hell, that's what I've been trying to tell you. He said, besides all that, you're used to sugar in your system from alcohol. And the honey has already been digested. I said, indigestion's not my problem. You know, if you throw up right, you don't have to worry about indigestion. I drank half of it and it soured, curdled, came right back up. He said, don't worry about it, we have plenty. One of the smart ones said, walk all you want to. Hell, I didn't want to walk at all. God, I drank that sweet, sweet stuff. You know how they do you? Walk up, walk up, walk up. Don't go outside. Walk up down there. Got a new animal in here today, and they sit there and watching. They laugh. They're having a hell of a time. Finally, about 6 o'clock, he said, I guess we better go home. I said, yeah. God, we got in that car, and I said, let me out 2 blocks before we get to the house. I said, I knew beer would not cut that sweet taste. I was going to have to go get bourbon, get rid of that. That was a sick. It almost tastes sick now. Sweet taste. sweet taste. He said, don't drink anything. I'm going to pick you up in an hour. I said, what for? We're going to a meeting. I said, where? Right back where we came from. I said, well, just let me out the house. In an hour, hell, here he came. It's Christmas Eve and he came. Went back over. Then they all got up and held hands and said the Lord's Prayer, and my God, Holy Spirit moved into that place, and that busted with, started all talking at the same time. My God. Nobody played the organ, the piano, nobody sang a song or nothing, just wham. I said, hell, I'm going to keep my eyes open, see what that guy did. Then I saw the deal. Men and women laughing, holding hands, going out there and getting those cars and taking off, and I'm standing there waiting for them to invite us. And I've got the message already. They're going and doing what you're supposed to do after you get in with that bunch. Talk about it a little and have a little drink, get to going, you know. I'm with the only deacon that they don't like. We go night after night after night. They don't invite us. And see, I already know I've got the bad character. I knew it the first day I saw him. We went to a meeting every living night twice on Saturday and Sunday. Once in a while we'd have what he called a Sunday special. 3 meetings. One night, raining. He calls, I'll pick you up about 30 minutes. I said, hell, it's raining. He said, you ever go get a drink when it's raining? I said, I'll be ready. One night, what's her name's out of town, I just shut her down. I just cut out all the lights, pulled down the shades, left nothing on but the TV set. The old phone just ring, I just let her ring. Next morning he called and said, where were you last night? I said, I was right here watching television, enjoyed every damn minute of it. Loved it, may do it again tonight. He said, well, you missed it. I said, what did I miss? He said, I don't know. I said, you mean tell me you're not going to tell me? Didn't you go? He said, yeah, I was there, but I only heard what I was supposed to hear. We'll never know what it was you were supposed to hear. I said, my God, you got to go every night, you'll miss it. Went 3 months, got drunk, 3 months, got drunk, 3 months, got drunk, and sobered up all by myself. Didn't call nobody, didn't need nobody, and the third day I was going to go back to the meeting and officially resign. I was going to go make my move. I figured out what's wrong with me. I've always been under-financed. If I could ever get financed, I could leave everybody and I'd be okay. Right after that meeting, when I was getting ready to tell him, he walked up to me and said, don't you ever call me again. I said, God, I'm glad you said that. I didn't call you in the first place. They called you. I never liked you from the first day I saw you. And I've got news for you. Nobody here likes you. This bunch goes out every night, but we don't get invited because of you. They don't know me. You don't have to worry about a thing. I'll never call you again as long as I live. And I didn't until the next morning. He said, meet me at the club. They talk to you like a dog here, you know. I got out the club and he said, get your coffee and sit down. See how nasty they are? Hell, nasty. He said, now I'm going to tell you something about Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon, Al-Ateen, Al-Atot, and Al-Adol. There's absolutely no failure here. This program does not fail. No way for it to fail, provided you do exactly what we tell you to do, the way we tell you to do it. Now you're going to get to do one thing for the rest of your days, and that's all. But you're the only one that gets to do it. Beginning today, you're going to decide whether you're going to do our way of life or your way of life. And you're going to make that decision every day for the rest of your days. If you decide to go our way, you may in the beginning have to make it several times a day. If you don't give an alcoholic a decision to make, he'll flounder for years on the same subject. Now I'm going to give you a decision to make. Either do exactly what we tell you to do, the way we tell you to do it, or go right back out that door. I said, I don't want to do either one. He said, I didn't ask you what you wanted to do. I asked you what you was going to do. I said, do you mean to tell me that you don't care whether I want to or not? He said, not at all. I said, well, if you'll make it perfectly clear to the group that I don't want to, then I'll do it. He said, first of all, we got to get some things straight. It's your thinking that's wrong. I said, how much of my thinking's wrong? We always start with all of it. And if there's any good, we'll let you know. I said, you put a wall of the club back there that says, think, think, think. And he said, that's for us. So now we're going to give you some things not to do and some things to do. Then it's going to happen over there. I said, what's going to happen over there? We don't know, but it always happens. I said, I don't understand anything you're telling me. He said, and that's it, and don't you ever forget it. I said, you didn't hear me. I said, I do not understand. And he said, and that's the thing you need to remember for the rest of your days. You do not understand. Then you'll have understanding. And when you try not to understand, then you'll enjoy it. There's two things that you got to remember for the rest of your days. No matter what's going on in your life, you do not understand. The other thing is that no matter what your situation is at the time, it's never the situation, it's never them, it's never God, it's you that must become different. You must become different than you have ever been before. I said, how do I do that? He said, oh, you can't. I said, what the hell did you tell me for then? That's what's going to happen to you. He said, now I'm going to tell you the kicker. I'm going to tell you the thing that got you here. But it's also the thing that if it does not change in your life, you're going to miss everything that's here. As long as you know that you know, you'll never know. But when you begin to do what we tell you not to do and begin to know that you don't know, then you'll begin to know. I said, hell, you're crazy. He said, I know. The way we're going to not drink or take a pill is, remember that card I gave you has my number on it and 4 other numbers and the intergroup number? Yeah. When you get squirrely, definitely before you take a pill or a drink, you call one of those numbers or go to intergroup. If you gut it through, do not drink, You didn't do it right. You call when you get squirted, no matter when it is. Now that's the way we're going to learn to not do something. Now that not doing is going to change as you go along, but you not do it the same way. Whatever it is you got not to do, because you don't have not do anything. Now the thing that we're going to do every day, we're just going to add to it. I said, what's that? I said, in the morning when you get up, the first thing, get down on your knees and say these words and these words only. God, take me today and let me be what you want me to be. Let thy will only be done in my life. Help me to definitely take a drink of anything alcoholic or mind-changing drug. Amen. You do not need to tell God what he has not done, what he should do, or how to do it. God's highly capable of handling all the rest of that by himself. And then call me before you go to the bathroom. I said, why before I go to the bathroom? You may not need to go. I said, do you mean to tell me that you don't think I've got sense enough to know when I need to go to the bathroom? He said, we'll find out. They really don't give you a lot of credit here, you know, starting out. Well, before I got out on my knees that morning, I said, God, you and I know he don't know. Hell, he's a Presbyterian. But we're going to do it just exactly like he says. So when we get through, we can tell him to and go do our thing. I got out on my knees, I did that deal, I made sure I need to go to the bathroom, and I picked up that phone call, didn't even ask where I need to go or not, just said, go to the bathroom, meet me at the club. And I met him at the club, and he said, now go to work. I said, oh, I hate my job. He said, that doesn't have anything to do with it. He tell me I hate my job, I don't change job, nothing. He said, no, don't change nothing. Things are going to be changed. You're never going to change anything anymore. I said, well, I couldn't even go to work yesterday. He said, what'd you do, sit in that chair? I said, yeah, thinking? Yeah. Well, you don't know how to go to work. I said, well, how do you do it? Go get in the car. You can catch this if you write it down. Then he said, by the way, besides that prayer you say every morning, when you get in the car, invite God into the day. I said, how do you do that? You say, God, I invite you into the day. Oh. After you hear it over and over, you can finally catch on to it. I met him back at the club. You know how they are. You come in, they say, it's okay, get your coffee and sit with us out loud where everybody can hear. Don't say anything. And then about time when you almost get comfortable, it says, time for you to go home and eat, go back to the meeting. Hell, I know how to do that, but they got to say it. So everybody can hear it. They want to know that's their baby. After the meeting, he said, now I want you to go home and thank God for the day. I said, I do not thank God for the day. It's been a miserable damn day. I hate you, I hate her, I hate God, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite, and I'm not praying to God unless I'm sincere about it. He said, oh, do you feel like you don't mean it? I said, yeah. That has nothing to do with it. I said, what do you mean it has nothing to do with it? He said, that has absolutely nothing to do with it. It's only the action that you're taking that's against your thinking that's going to make you different. And the action you're taking is never for what you think you want to happen, because that's not what's going to happen, because something else got to happen first. Hell, I understood that, so I didn't ask you anything about that. I said, do you mean to tell me that I do not have to be sincere with God? He said, not at all. Your relationship with God is going to be entirely God's business, none of yours. I said, you mean tell me all that stuff I've been thinking about all day long, I could have been thinking about something else, it's been the same? And he said, absolutely. I said, God don't care and you don't care? And he said, not at all. I just went home, got out on my knees, closed the door so what's the name couldn't get in there. I said, okay, by God, thank you for a miserable damn day. Amen. Hell, if he don't care and God don't care, hell, I don't care. I did that for about 2 months. Improved a little where I wasn't quite so mad at God, but miserable all the time. Once in a while after me, I'd almost get to feeling good, and I'd start thinking, so I'd get miserable again. One morning about 9:15, I was driving down that old 610 loop in Houston, right over Memorial Drive. And this God I had never known as my friend moved into that car with me as my friend. And for the first time in my life, I knew something that God lets His children know. And I knew I would never have to drink again or take a mind-changing drug unless I myself insisted upon it. And I knew it. God, that was a fantastic day. That stayed that way all day long. I thought the rest of my life's going to be this way. I'm going to get a tent and some tambourines, and we're going to go save some souls. I'm ready one day, and I'm ready to move out. Got back to the club. He was 15 minutes late and walked in. I said, get your coffee and sit down. The Baptist is taking over. They don't like that, you know. But he did it. And then I told him what had happened. And he grinned just a little and said, thank God we've got that over with. Now we can get started. I said, my God, that took a year. He said, some are than others. I said, well, what are you going to do about old what's-her-name? He said, I'm not going to do nothing about that. I'm going to leave my marriage just like it is. I'm not messing with it. Most people in AA are married right. Some of them shouldn't be married, and some of them have to change and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not going through with it. I'm going to send you to a guy that knows all about that because he's gone through that. And he sent me to an Episcopalian. And this guy says, what do you want? I said, I want to know if I can have the right relationship with one woman. And he said, you remember that lonesome walk that you made when you first got in AA? You came in and you didn't fit in AA and you didn't fit out back out there? I said, yeah. If you're willing to make that lonesome walk in every area of your life, I'll not only guarantee your relationship with one woman, I'll guarantee your relationship with your fellow man you never could have dreamed of. And I'll give you a bonus on top of that. I'll guarantee you a relationship with God you could never have imagined. I said, what do I have to do? He said, well, first, you don't know how to live with anybody. You're not capable of loving anybody. I said, what am I going to do? He said, first of all, we have to learn what not to do, which is the hardest thing you're going to do for the rest of your life. We're going to not tell her what's wrong with her ever again. I said, who's going to tell her? He said, I don't know, but you're not. And you're never going to do anything to get kids or anybody, neighbors or Al-Anon or anybody to work her around to get her to do something so you all will be better. You're never going to do that. You're never going to tell her anything. And you're going to pray for her. I said, I'm not. You can pray for her, but I'm not going to pray for her. He said, yes, you are, and you're going to say these words, and every time she comes into your mind, you're going to say, God, thy will be done for her as well as for me. I said, I do not want God's will to be done for her as well as for me. He said, remember, what you want has nothing to do with it. Well, I started doing that, and I had a bad case of it. After about 2 months of doing this, I'd written my 4-step a couple of months before, and I ended up, and whatever that thing was I had with women, I had it. And God, I told him about it, God wouldn't remove it. I told the group, God still wouldn't remove it. So I slipped over and told another group, and they snitched on me. You know, we don't gossip here, we're just concerned. He cornered me and said, we're so sick and tired of hearing about you and old what's her name. We're so sick and tired of hearing about you and that women deal. You go home, evidently you've got to do it different. Just go home and get in that apartment and lock that door, she's out of town, and you and God get rid of that. And don't come back talking about it. I went over and I cussed and prayed and cried, some of them long Baptist ones. Went to sleep 11:30, 12 o'clock that night. Next morning wasn't there. First time in my life that I could remember. And then I was afraid to go see any women, afraid to come back. And that night I went to me, next night, and finally I said, well, I guess I might as well tell them. So I walked up to me and said, well, I guess I might as well tell you. And he said, oh, we knew it first night. I said, why didn't you tell me? He said, you need to know you're always going to be last to know. I said, why is that? He said, we don't know. Maybe you got to be last to be first, but you'll always be last to know. Till someday you're going to be first. Oh, what's her name and I got a divorce. She used the same lawyer. For those of you who are worried about her, they took her to Al-Anon, and Al-Anon, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. They found you depressing. Thank you very much. Took her to one open AA meeting, and God, she couldn't stand it. I didn't take her, they took her. We got a divorce and used the same lawyer, and her best friend, I saw her about 2 months after we'd been divorced, and she said, have you seen old what's her name lately? I said, no. Happier than I've ever seen her. I wanted to call her because I knew she forgot who she was. Wasn't too long after that, God, I don't even know when we started. Is the tape run out yet? Like that, I was called on this girl in the hospital, and I will tell you about my second sponsor. I told him I was not sleeping with old what's her name, and I had one or two picked out that seemed to be ideal for me, and he would not let me do it. I had brain damage not doing it. You have that sober, you know. Drinking, you get relief. I was called on this girl in the hospital, and I'd gone to a convention, and we were accused of going together. I did have some kind of different funny feelings when I was around her. So sure enough, I went to her, and I said, I've got to see you in your office. They had told me that any time I start associating with somebody that's going to be on a regular basis, I need to establish that whatever I'm doing, God's going to be ahead of every area of my life. And that's my goal, and that's what I'm working for. And that's what I'm supposed to. So we talked about God and work, and that's all. So I said, I've got to tell you the truth. There's some funny feelings coming on. I might even be falling in love with you. I don't know. They say I've never been in love. And I said, we can't do anything about it because I cannot have an affair. My sponsor won't let me. And she looks funny, coming from a 44-year-old man. And I said, well, I might as well tell you the rest of it. I'm an alcoholic. I go to Alcoholics' office every single night, twice on Saturday and Sunday. They let me do two things: work, go to AA. That's all I get to do. Nothing else. She said, what's it all about? Well, I don't know. They smoke a lot, fuss because their eyes burn, drink a lot of coffee, and they gripe because they can't sleep at night, talk about God and cry and cuss some. I don't know. I said, I have to call my sponsor. So I called my sponsor. He said, what have you been doing? I said, I ain't done nothing. He said, bring her over here. She looked funny, but she went. We get over there and he goes to the little ones a meal, sets me over to the side, talked to her for an hour and a half. I thought, hell, I believe he's going with her. Then he finally turned to me and said, it looks like God might be going to do something for you. And I've been sitting on caution for 2 years. That's the first green light I've gotten. That's all I needed to know. Just go sign old Don's name and go. And they said, no, you don't do nothing. Remember, we agreed that whatever home we were going to have, God was going to be ahead of it, and God, A.A. and Al-Anon were going to live in that home. We weren't going to have it any other way. I said, what am I going to do? Nothing. Brain damage set in again. I had to tell her how to go to Al-Anon. I said, go there and tell them your name's Eloise. Don't tell them another damn thing. They don't need to know anything else. She went in there, and that was not enough. And she told them that she was going to be going with an alcoholic and that we were going to see what was going to happen. And they spent 2 meetings telling her why she should not go with an alcoholic. I took her across town to an open meeting, and an AA gal was talking, and she heard the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. She went back to the Al-Anon group and said, you got a program here, and I want it. They taught us how to pray separately and taught us how to pray together. Wasn't too long after that we were thrown together. And I have that relationship today that only God, AA, and Al-Anon gives. One home, and we have God, AA, and Al-Anon living in our home. And I'm in love with one woman, and I can love Jenny and other women like I'm supposed to, along with other men. She had 3 children. The older son was a Southern, the one they liked, Baptist minister. He heard his mother was probably on drugs. And in fact, he's preaching over in Indiana as a church. And that she had married an alcoholic. We did not see him for 3 years. And then he came finally to see us. And this last year, before he came back up here, he went 3 years to Venezuela, missionary. When he came back, he went to see his dad one time and stayed 30 days with us. His daughter kind of warmed things up. He knows he understands me, and I know he doesn't. But they're our kids now, and you couldn't even tell any difference. He's finally taken them to AA, but he still thinks he can handle the wife or the spouse. But he is taking them to AA. Doesn't understand why they don't all stay. The middle son, all he wanted, he's probably going to be one of us. He just wanted to see if his mother was okay, if she happy. That's all he wanted to know. And he's just recently gotten a divorce. He's living in an apartment with a mattress. Eloise said, son, do you think you might be drinking too much? He said, no, so he's okay. The daughter had a bad romance when she got out of high school, right as we were getting married, and she went off. She's beautiful, tall, slender, blue-eyed blonde, and had a personality about like this thing here if it wasn't painted. Went off with an old long-haired, dirty-haired, bearded, pot-smoking boy. Went to school out and back and worked out, and finally Eloise and Al-Anon handled it. They could, of course, if I could have told them, we could have done it a little better, but they made it all right, and I didn't tell them. God, that's hard on me. And after we let them go, they had gotten some of our literature, and they did clean up and went to work, and he went back to college, and they now have 2 grandbabies of ours. And when the first one was born, why, she had Eloise down there and had me down there after it was born and handed it to me, and I didn't know what to do with it. And said, I want you to make sure you see us at least every 2 months. And we have a love affair going with that little 4-year-old now. She had her last birthday just the day before yesterday, 4 years old. we talked on the phone, and she said, "I love you, Papa Jim." And they come to see us Christmas, and God put it all together. They just, and that girl's an absolute delight to be around, and her husband, father probably died with alcoholism when he was about 10, and he told me about 6 years ago that on Thanksgiving that I was the only dad he really ever had. I'm glad I know some things about you and I. God, I'm glad we didn't miss it. I'm glad that I know without a shadow of a doubt you and I are chosen by God just to be just exactly the way we were and the way we are today. Without a shadow of a doubt. God chose you and I to be His special children. And there's no doubt about that, and I know that. And I'm glad of one other thing more than anything else, that you and I, no matter where we are right now, we're right on time. We're not late and we're not early. For you and I, we're right on time. And God's got us right in there and has had us all the time. Without a shadow of a doubt. You and I just didn't know it. Hell, it wasn't our deal. We didn't know it. We was out there spending the best we could. And I'm glad I know that today. Hell, it can't happen any other way. You can't be as pretty as you are any other way. And I'm glad I know that it was we were the ones. I don't know about anybody else, but I know about you and I, and my life and your life was never going to be any different until you and I were sent to be with each other. And believe me, you didn't get here on your own. You had no idea. Did you, when you went to school, did you know you said, "God, I've got to hurry and get drunk so I can get there, God Himself put us together. And I used to think maybe I could have done this, and not maybe after I got to A, if I'd have done this and not that. That's not it. That's not it at all. It's just the way it needed to be for you. Your path's different from mine, and mine's different from yours. But we go down that path that same way. And it could not be any different up through this day. It had to be. Because God comes into my and your life one way only, through the living experience of the situations that's created along that path you and I are going to take. And you get it no other way. You don't get it by studying it, reading it, teaching it, learning it. You get it one way only. You and I holding each other's hand as the other one goes through that experience. One way only. But we got it. Hell, this is it. You have arrived. We're here. This is the place. This is where He had us all the time. Had us ready to go. And we had to do what we had to do to be willing to go through what God says His children have got to go to receive the greatest thing in the world. The love of God Himself. And we've got that without a shadow of a doubt. But the difference is you. When I got to you, then God could give me what I have to have to be His. That one thing. Just like it is right now. When I can feel you loving me and me loving you. Thank you very much.